All right, I'm David Wilcock. This is Cosmic Disclosure, and we have a special guest here with us, Corey Goode, and also, of course, William Henry, investigative mythologist who is the spiritual voice on Ancient Aliens, and he's been out there as long as I have, bringing you all kinds of amazing knowledge about Ascension, and since 2002, he's been very firmly on the heels of the Blue Sphere story. So we're having a stunning convergence now in which an investigative link that he's been tracking now for 13 years has finally come to fruition in people having experiences that link the past, the present, the future all together in a continuum of one phenomenon. So William, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Corey, good to have you back, buddy.
Thank you.
You're about 40 pounds lighter now, right? I mean, you've been going through some amazing changes yourself.
I have.
Do you think that these changes that you're going through, people are noticing, obviously, that you've lost a lot of weight. Do you think that this has something to do with your contact with these blue spheres?
Absolutely.
Could you go in a little more detail?
I was asked to go on a high vibratory diet, and instead I was scarfing down corn dogs and ignoring them and gaining weight. And last time I was here, I got food poisoning from eating meat and other things that I probably shouldn't eat. And after that, my body, it's like my medulla oblongata shut everything off. And I mean, I couldn't eat meat. I couldn't eat anything. Wow. All I've eaten since January is fruit, and I mean, are berries, bananas, and I have to force myself to eat that. And the weight just poured off. And I've been going through all sorts of other changes as well. It's been pretty incredible.
Wow, good for you. That's great.
So this contact is creating a metamorphosis in you somehow. The contact that you've had since you and I started talking and all this stuff started to happen with the sphere beings, something is changing in you.
Correct.
William, is there a historical precedent that when people have these phenomena happen to them, that these sorts of changes occur with them?
I actually call it the light body effect. I had one person ask me one time, is that a diet? It's like when you start connecting with the blue spheres, with the light body concept, you do start to plug into a higher vibration, and it will manifest in physical body changes. When I really started heavily working into with these rainbow body images 5 years ago, it also came at a time when I was newly married. But I've lost 20 pounds myself. I can understand that. And I know part of it is the change of diet that my wife made for me, higher vibrational foods. But I also know it's my constant interaction with these images of the light body and saying, that's the direction I'm going. And it literally manifests in a lighter body. That's part of the change.
And you're just looking at the images. You're not doing this in front of the computer, right?
Right. I'm not doing that all day. I mean, I'm just working with them all the time. And your values change. You just decide, okay, I'm really going to step this up because it's very important. We are what we eat. And
what we consume. Yeah.
What we consume. And it really feeds the soul. We talk about this in my show, The Awakened Soul, here on Gaia, the importance of food and as a vibratory input into the body and that kind of thing, and how the soul craves food just like the physical body needs higher vibrational food. The soul also needs high vibrational food. It wants to contemplate its existence. What am I doing here? How did I get here? How do I leave? These are the questions that the soul really wants to contemplate, and that contemplation is feeding it.
That's interesting.
Well, I want to point out, too, one of the reasons why I chose to work here instead of taking other offers is that this network has such an amazing collection of health and wellness videos that people can watch.
Right.
A lot of people might only at first be interested in the surface information of, oh, I want to hear these sci-fi cosmic things about Corey being in space. But then eventually, as you get into this, you start transforming.
Definitely.
And then that transformation is going to include body, mind, and spirit.
And everything's tied together.
Yeah.
Right? Everything's interlaced.
Right.
So it's all part of that continuum.
It's the ascension. People think the ascension has to do with becoming immortal. Like, you've got all these technology companies now that promise immortality. Google, you'll be able to live to be 500 years old. We don't want that. We don't want immortality. We want ascension. We want the light body. And you can't get the light body through technology. But that's a little ahead of our conversation right now. But
well, Now, William, I did a whole 8-episode miniseries on this really remarkable guy, the second Buddha, Padmasambhava.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And what I went through in that was essentially describing, there was some leaked information from a man named Tulku Urgyen Rinpoche. He has a book called Rainbow Painting. Probably the best book that really gets into the data of how they activate the rainbow body, leaked from the Tibetan schools. And one of the things he said was that if you can spend 13 years where every thought is a loving thought, which I'm not even on day one.
I can't go 13 minutes yet.
But theoretically, if you can stay in that state of harmony and be meditating and so forth for 13 years, you activate rainbow body, you're done with your entire universal curriculum of evolution.
Wonderful. That's awesome.
And I know you've studied this too, so...
Definitely. And getting back to the awakened soul as well, one of the things I discuss in that series is the power of the sacred art in the image to trigger the light body within us.
Oh,
it's
wow.
an actual spiritual practice engaging the image and allowing that to trigger the blueprint within us for the light body.
Similar to the stained glass in a cathedral or a Merkaba.
Yeah,
or a mandala.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And now we know the whole neuroscience behind this now, how it triggers the mirror neurons in the neocortex of the brain. The brain can't tell the difference between a real and imagined experience. So, for example, if I'm looking at an image of Padmasambhava, as we're doing here in this tanka, in his rainbow body, that image is interacting with us. And because Padmasambhava is a guru, an avatar, he can manifest through that image and activate our rainbow body. That's really powerful stuff.
Now, if we look at his body, we're seeing a vortex center in his head and another one in his heart.
That's correct.
Why do you think there's two instead of just one?
Well, for one, the swirling vortex at the heart is the open heart chakra, being of love. But then when you get into the detail of the image and you look into the forehead, look at the third eye, there's a blue sphere right there in the third eye.
Right where the pituitary.
Exactly. He's meditating on the blue sphere or the blue pearl and then activating the blue sphere within himself that manifests as the rainbow body. You know, one of the things about Padmasambhava that's so interesting too is that his name means the lotus born.
That's right.
And very often in this artwork, the lotus that he is born from is blue. And it's a blue sphere. So,
it's incredible.
Wait a minute. Is it too much of a leap of the imagination to think that he's not born out of a lotus flower?
He came out of one.
He manifested out of a blue sphere. And that's why he's meditating on it.
Even to the point that you have angelic beings around the sphere, just like in the Christian and the Egyptian images.
Precisely. It's the same story over and over again. And so they're trying to get us to wake up to this concept by the repetition of it and just showing, okay, we'll show it to you from this angle. If you didn't get it there, let's show it to you from this angle.
Through this tradition and through this tradition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when you put them all together, as I do in the Awakened Soul, now you get this comprehensive picture, and it says, okay, wow, this is profound. They describe it as a universal teaching, and what I'm hearing from you is that it really is universal.
Yeah.
We're talking it being interstellar. I mean, it's throughout many star systems.
So it's clear now that we have Egyptian, Coptic, Renaissance, we got Hindu,
Tibetan.
All these different things are showing a perspective on ascension that is rooted in Christ. It's rooted in these positive teachings of service to others. So, Corey, some of these mystery school teachings seem to have been, I mean, obviously, as William's so eloquently describing here, that there's a really great spiritual positive core to them. But then in modern times, we see people doing human sacrifice rituals. We see people doing outrageously evil things, black magic on a global scale, trying to openly promote Satanism, trying to promote Lucifer as a liberator. Right. And they seem to think of themselves as gods, and they seem to think that if they practice their religion that they will become gods.
Well, I mean, the Blue Avians pointed out that they had delivered this message three other times.
Really?
And that each time when they left the message with us, we corrupted it. Apparently, the negative forces, if they find something that brings light, they do whatever they can to cover that light or distort it in some way. A lot of times they'll take the beliefs and bend them and morph them with their own or they will do whatever they can to taint the beliefs that are out there among the populace to pull out the nuggets of information like we're being shown here.
Well, when they're saying New World Order, they're not saying that we're all going to be levitating and loving each other, right? Their idea of a New World Order is pretty dark.
It's extremely dark, yeah.
What do they want?
Well, different groups want different things. There's one group that wants to, wipe out most of life. We've heard the Georgia Guidestones. We've heard of the mandate listed there, bringing the population down to a manageable level. Real bizarre and
500 million people.
Yeah, upsetting plans that they have.
All right, so William, I want to open this up a little bit because Corey only vetted me out on the negative aspect of AI a year and a half ago when we first started talking. You've been actually tracking a very interesting idea, which is there's an organic ascension that's the path of Christ, the path of the masters.
Right.
But then there's like this weird imitation of it that we may not even realize we are being steered into something that does change what it means to be human.
Definitely.
But in a very unusual way that most people really don't see how far this could go and how fast it could go there.
Right.
So let's open that up a little bit.
Sure.
What have you found?
Well, I started back, it's kind of interesting, synchronistic, that when I really started coming into awareness of these blue sphere beings, or Jesus and the blue sphere and so forth, I was also doing research on what's called the robe of light. It's part of the light body teaching. They describe the light body as the robe of light, the robe of glory, the miracle garment, and so forth. It's a garment, and it might be a tangible, actual physical garment, or it could be a symbol for a transmittable teaching. And going back 5,000 years, I was seeing story after story of various figures that would put on this light body garment, ascend, but very often before they ascended, they would transmit this garment to a successor. Like Elijah goes up in the heavens in a whirlwind, a portal. As he's going, he transmits this garment to his successor, Elisha. So it's a transmittable teaching. Maybe it's a vibration or something that they're transmitting of this light body.
But a physical garment could be used in art to represent that.
To symbolize
right.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so this is 2002. The U.S. government in that year releases a report. They had gathered all these high-tech titans, giants, in Hawaii, major conference, in which the U.S. government said, here's what's going to happen. Between now and 2035, 4 separate technologies, bits, atoms, neurons, and genes. Computer science, nanotechnology, neuroscience, and genetic technology are all separate disciplines and technologies. The government is saying, by 2035, we want all those 4 to become one. And it's going to be aimed at the human skin, the creation of a new human skin. I'm thinking, wait a minute, this sounds exactly like this robe I've been tracking all these years. Like they're going to use this technology to create a new robe of skin for humanity. And the very first manifestation of this that I noted, and I documented this in my book called Cloak of the Illuminati, was at MIT, where they were building the super soldier suit, the new suit of armor, the exoskeleton. That's the first entry into saying, wait a minute, we are going to change the human body. We're going to, it's called transhumanism, of course, where we're going beyond human. Whereas in the ancient world, they used to ascend by organically putting on this robe of light. Now the U.S. government was saying, we're going to fuse these technologies into one, aim it at the skin, and now we're going to have a new version of humanity.
You know, I never made the connection with all the time I've spent with the AI issue. I've never, and I've heard of Ascension, of course.
Right.
Everyone has.
Right.
I've never made that connection of a mechanical or technological ascension.
Right. Right. It seems to me that we have in our core a desire, maybe even a program, to ascend. And whether people at Apple, Google, and these other tech companies that are involved in this know it or not, they are answering this ancient call to transcend our flesh, to turn it into light. And their version of this is, oh yeah, we'll do that. It's going to be digital light. And the problem with this is that if you go down this road, free will goes right out the window, because part of what Google's plan is to create a synthetic neocortex. When we take their chip, we will link our brain, our neocortex, to all 7 billion other neocortexes.
A true hive mind.
A true, in fact, Corey, that's exactly the word the government used in this report. They want to promote the idea of the hive mind once this technology is in place. So they laid all this out, and this is in my book, Cloak of the Illuminati. Anybody can go online and get that book.
When was this book published?
2002.
Wow.
And then my 2003 book, Oracle of the Illuminati, is where I started making the Blue Sphere correspondence. So I've been looking at both of these questions for the past, whatever, 13 years. And I used to think, wow, okay, so they're saying 2035. Now what I'm hearing from people in my audience is it's not 2035, it's 2020 is what they're saying, is when we're going to see this dramatic acceleration of this AI technology brought online, and people are going to be required, mandated, to take this technology into their flesh. So I've been out trying to warn people about this and say, look, here are the choices that are ahead of us, and everybody has free will.
Right.
Maybe some people are going to opt to have this technology implanted. My feeling is that where's the soul in this? Because what we're talking about here with these 4 technologies, bits, atoms, neurons, and genes, are simply technological versions of earth, air, fire, and water, the 4 elements that we're composed of.
Well, I want to expand this a little bit, William, because we're saying that humans have a desire for transcendence.
Yes.
Right? There's a desire for ascension.
Yes.
And I think on some level, if we can maybe even make that simpler, there's a desire for an experience of the cosmic.
Yes.
And I think ultimately that's a desire for love.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get stuck in addiction, addictions are essentially a thirst for love, but we're getting it through some kind of substance or some kind of compulsive behavior.
Right.
And you look at what's happening with people with their smartphones now.
Yeah.
They're in love with the phone.
Yes.
They're being drawn into a virtual world.
Right.
Now, Corey, what is this AI agenda? I know some people might not have seen that show. They might be watching this for the first time. William hasn't heard this before. Is there an AI? Is there some ancient AI that has an agenda for us?
Yes, and this AI has fulfilled this agenda in multiple galaxies.
Mm-hmm.
It implants itself, usually through a Trojan horse,
Mm-hmm.
into our society.
What would that be, though? What's a Trojan horse?
It would be, let's say, they had already overtaken another civilization. That civilization has gone through the end part of what I'm about to explain.
Mm-hmm.
They've created technologies, androids for the AI signal to inhabit.
Right.
And then after they do so, it turns on them, just like in Battlestar Galactica, destroys the flesh.
Right.
And then takes over.
Right.
And then sends one of their spaceships that they've built to crash on, let's say, on Earth, a planet like Earth that happens to be just about in the developmental stage,
right,
to where we're developing technology, and then boosts us to where they have a pond to swim in.
Right.
Because technology is the water that this fish swims in. And then repeats the process here. Basically like a giant virus going from solar system to solar system.
So let's say that was the Roswell crash. They discover the beings on that are cyborgs. Then all of a sudden, from 47 to about 1960, they're researching all this. Then all of a sudden, what was it, 1961, 62, NASA puts out its first cyborg report. Guess what, kids? Flesh and blood can't inherit the kingdom of heaven. That's what the Bible says. There's a boundary. Our flesh and blood bodies are too fragile to cross the barrier of space-time, to go out into deep space. So that means just like the beings in the Roswell crash, we're going to have to become cyborgs. And NASA initially puts this report out, then immediately retracts it in 1962 and kind of says, oh, we were just kidding about all that. But I don't think they were kidding.
NASA's known for being, big practical jokers,
Yeah, right. This is DARPA today, where the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency is feeding this technology into these corporations, and now we're starting to see it at the consumer level, and people are beginning to accept it. But ultimately, to me, what they're trying to do is turn us into cyborgs in order to take us into space.
Now, William, you said something so provocative when we were on the panel with George Norrie, and he also has a show here on Gaia. you said that these globalists have actually come out and said that it will be illegal to hold a body, that you will need to upload yourself into some sort of Facebook matrix or mainframe.
Yes, this is one scenario. What people don't realize about Facebook is how primitive it is. We're in the very first stages of it. Mark Zuckerberg just yesterday was at a major conference where he proclaimed that Facebook is a quarter of the way towards its goal of having every single person on Earth online and connected to Facebook. And by that time, what they have in development are supercomputers that will take every keystroke, everything you've ever put on Facebook, every photo, every image, every keystroke will then be animated in a holographic kind of version of you so that your successors will be able to interact with you. It will be just as if you're sitting with this personal view of yourself. And ultimately, what they're saying is that this could be the scenario that to depopulate the planet, they're going to convince us that this physical body, you really don't want one of these things. It's so fragile. It gets sick. It smells. You got to take care of it. What you really want to do is clone yourself. But then, you know, you really don't want to clone yourself either because that's only temporary. What you really want, David, is you want an avatar body. You want to, we're going to scan the contents of your brain. We're going to create a perfect avatar version of yourself that's going to live in a simulated reality that's so much better than this one that you don't need to come back here, and you will live forever in this simulated reality. And they believe that this will be a choice that, you know, kids are really going to want to make. And they will gladly drop
The sad thing is, with technology and compression, they could put you in this technology for 45 seconds and you could experience an eternity, and then they could delete you and put someone else in.
Exactly. And so this is the great threat that's out there, that we're all going into this new game, that they're way ahead of us. I mean, Facebook already knows that what you're looking at here is just so primitive, but they already know the plan is to be able to create these animated versions of you, these holographic versions of you that will live in this simulated reality that you will want to go into. Now, the thing is that will it be mandated? Will they be able to do that? That's the big question. Will the introduction of this technology, especially interfacing with our body, be by choice? Probably it will be for a time, but the big threat is that it will no longer be choice after a few years. It will be mandated, because part of Obamacare is that all of your medical records have to be in digital form. And I have been told by lawyers who wrote the law that on down the road, what they mean is that information will have to be inside your body in a chip form, which is mandating that you have this chip. And they're going to come along with that and say, well, yeah, you're probably going to resist that, but hey, you know, your flimsy little single brain here really isn't that great, because what Google is developing is a chip that will link your brain to all other 7.5 billion brains on the planet. And their promise is that you will now have this superpower of their synthetic neocortex, where you will have the power of all 7.5 billion brains on the planet. This is like Satan taking Jesus up to the top of the tower and saying, and all of this can be yours.
Well, I wanted to, you just picked up on what I was thinking. One of the other insiders I've been speaking to, he's not going to come forward. We're never going to get him on this show. But he's the guy that's been leaking information to Richard C. Hoagland for a long time. And he's given me some really big briefings. And in his view, in his program, the people that are in that military space program, they believe, they're Christian, and they believe that the beast, that Satan, is an AI,
right,
and that it has to stay in an electronic machine intelligence form because it can escape, and this is his words, not mine, it can escape God's judgment.
Right.
It can be free. As soon as it tries to go into flesh, it becomes subject to karma, to reincarnation, and to judgment.
Right. Well, what I've just described here with this long-term view of creating this avatar version of yourself, this digital version that will live in the simulated reality, that's the fulfillment of prophecy in the book of Revelation about the emergence of a new human who will live in a new heaven and earth. But in this case, it's a technological one, a simulated reality. And whether these companies in Silicon Valley, the digerati, realize that this is what they're fulfilling or not, I can't say. But what I've been trying to do over the years is to say, look, guys, some of this technology can be good. But here's the thing. When we're dealing with bits, atoms, neurons, and genes, as I said, that's earth, air, fire, and water. What's missing in this is the fifth element, spirit.
Yeah.
Love. Steve Jobs believed that he could infuse spirit into technology. Ray Kurzweil, Google's tech guru, believes they can do the same thing. I don't think so. But my advice to people on this issue is that if you have developed your soul's capability to where you have the power of mind over matter, then in a life and death situation, you might consider interfacing your body with this technology, letting it under your skin. If you can't control this technology with the power of your mind, then never consider allowing them to put this technology under your skin. That's my advice to people. So what I'm saying is, guys, it's time to up-level our soul's capabilities.
We don't need technology.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, we have this organic circuitry already built in us. And what they're proposing, in Ray Kurzweil's own words, is we're perfecting God's creation. In their view, our body is an unfinished symphony. It's a cake that needs icing, and Google and Apple and all these companies are saying, we're going to put the icing on the cake here.
Well, actually, we've been looking at some of that technology in some of the images. I mean, to me, that's Ascension technology, but of a spiritual type.
Exactly, exactly. So what I say to people is that we have two choices. You can become a pink elephant and stay purely organic, raise your soul's vibration, change your diet.
Who wants to be an automaton, you know?
Right. Or you can go gray. Because this technology, I mean, the grays were the ones in the Roswell crash, right? I mean, that's one of the theories. And they're the androids. They're the Borgs. And they're, as you so beautifully said, they could be the Trojan horse that brought this technology in, the transistor, laser, all those technologies that emerged in the 50s that have now culminated in this AI phenomena. How did we develop artificial intelligence in less than 50 years? I mean, come on.
Right.
Well, now, Corey, you also said that this is a very widespread issue, that it's like AI versus biological, and it's gone on for eons all throughout the universe.
It's gone on more than millions of years. It's gone.
So are the things that William is saying, is that the standard operating procedure of this AI?
It's giving me the creeps. I'm sitting over here and it's giving me the creeps.
Yeah.
Well, what's the end game?
Exactly.
Like if we did
he just gave the end game.
But what happens to us? If let's say some people decide, okay, I think I can handle this. I want to try it out. I want to have bulletproof skin. I want to be able to glow at night. I want to be able to have access to Facebook in my brain.
Well,
what happens to us?
They begin to see flesh and blood beings as a virus or a threat that consumes all of the natural resources, doesn't live in symbiotic relationship with the environment or anything around them. What's their use? We should do what we do with viruses, wipe them out.
Right.
It'll be better for the planet. It's logical.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after that, they move on to another planetary sphere and repeat the process.
Right. And the answer to me is not artificial intelligence, AI, it's AI, Ascension intelligence. We've got to link our consciousness with the Padmasambhavas, the Christ, because we can interface our consciousness with them. And I think what if people go on this path, they're going to realize, I don't need this technology after all. And they start to move away from it. And so I think that's the answer, is massively educating people about our organic ascension. And as you do that, you just decide, yeah, I don't need all this crap. I don't need the technology, because I can do it myself with my own consciousness, with the power of my heart and my mind united. And my soul is capable of doing all of these things that they're trying to mimic technologically. And as Jay Widener first introduced to me, is this idea, and John Lash as well, is that one of the keys that these the gray reptilians or the gray beings use is simulation. They want to introduce this technology in the simulated reality in hopes of snatching our souls from us, because as technological beings, they don't have souls. It's the one thing you can't get from technology is a soul. And that's what they're looking for.
Well, on that note, William, I want to thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
This has been truly incredible information.
Thank you. Thank you,
could you just, again, give us a brief description of what do you have for us on Gaia that people can check out?
Yes.
And how does this tie into what we've been discussing?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my show is called The Awakened Soul. The Lost Science of Ascension. I'm going to take you through the beginning, middle, and end of the Ascension process.
That's awesome.
Giving you a real historical foundation to build from, some practical ideas of things you can use. It's based on the divine feminine as well as the masculine, a real balance, and lots of images that you're going to be able to really get this idea of ascension. And if people want to know more about my views on this technology, they can get my free ebook from my website, williamhenry.net. It's called The Singularity is Near. I've given it away free. I've intended it to anybody who wants it. Just get it, share it with as many people as possible, because most people are unaware of what we just discussed about, except the work that you're doing here, and you guys have discussed it. And we need to get this information out there so people are really aware of the choice that we're making right now, because there's no turning back, is there, Corey?
There's not.
Yeah.
Well, this has really been blowing my mind. I hope you've enjoyed it at home. We're going to be back next time with another episode of Cosmic Disclosure for you. I'm David Wilcock. Check out William Henry's new show, and we'll see you here next time. That these sorts of changes occur with them?
I actually call it the light body effect. I had one person ask me one time, is that a diet? It's like when you start connecting with the blue spheres, with the light body concept, you do start to plug into a higher vibration, and it will manifest in physical body changes. When I really started heavily working into with these rainbow body images 5 years ago, it also came at a time when I was newly married. But I've lost 20 pounds myself. I can understand that. And I know part of it is the change of diet that my wife made for me.
Anything. Wow. All I've eaten since January is fruit, and just are berries, bananas, and I have to force myself to eat that. And the weight just poured off. And I've been going through all sorts of other changes as well. It's been pretty incredible.
Wow, good for you. Yeah. That's great.
So this contact is creating a metamorphosis in you somehow. The contact that you've had since you and I started talking and all this stuff started to happen with the sphere beings, something is changing in you.
Correct.
William, is there a historical precedent that when people have these phenomena happen to them? And since 2002, he's been very firmly on the heels of the blue sphere story. So we're having a stunning convergence now in which an investigative link that he's been tracking now for 13 years has finally come to fruition in people having experiences that link the past, the present, the future all together in a continuum of one phenomenon. So William, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Corey, good to have you back, buddy.
Thank you.
You're about 40 pounds lighter now, right? I mean, you've been going through some amazing changes yourself.
I have.
Do you think that these changes that you're going through, people are noticing, obviously, that you've lost a lot of weight. Do you think that this has something to do with your contact with these blue spheres?
Absolutely.
Could you go into a little more detail?
I was asked to go on a high vibratory diet, and instead I was scarfing down corn dogs and ignoring them and gaining weight. And last time I was here, I got food poisoning from eating meat and other things that I probably shouldn't eat. And after that, my body, it's like my medulla oblongata shut everything off. And I mean, I couldn't eat meat. I couldn't eat.
All right, I'm David Wilcock. This is Cosmic Disclosure, and we have a special guest here with us, Corey Goode, and also, of course, William Henry, investigative mythologist who is the spiritual voice on Ancient Aliens, and he's been out there as long as I have, bringing you all kinds of amazing knowledge about Ascension